Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Best of series for December here on the Terri Cole Show. I'm so thrilled to revisit these fan favorite episodes with you. It's so fun to actually remember what we did and reread all of your comments. It's just great. So this month, we're counting down the top 5 most popular episodes of all time. And I think we have 680 something episodes of all time, which is a lot. And today we're on episode number 3, most popular of all time, a topic that resonates deeply with so many of you, codependency in your relationships. And you can see by my most recent book that I wrote all about codependency, I am super obsessed with codependency in relationships right along with you. So when this episode first aired, it quickly became one of the most played and talked about shows, which really shows how many of us are navigating these complicated dynamics in relationships, right? It's not just you. It's like being able to put my finger on the pulse of what's really happening for people by looking at the data of what people are responding to most in the shows. So in today's episode, I explore the common signs of codependency and break down what happens when our well-meaning support for loved ones crosses the line into trying to control or fix. And if you've ever found yourself a bit too invested in the lives of other people or struggling to keep your own happiness separate from the happiness of those around you, this episode might shed some light on why that happens and what you can do about it. And here's a new insight that I wanted to add today. Something I've seen in my practice is how codependency often sneaks in as a way of managing our own emotion. Right? When we are uncomfortable with someone else's pain or struggle, we might feel this strong urge to jump in and help so we don't have to sit with those feelings of discomfort. It's a powerful thing to realize that sometimes the best way we can support the people we love is by letting them have their own experience, even if it's hard to watch, and by managing our own need to fix. When we do that, we not only honor their journey, but we also free up a lot of our energy to focus on our own growth and our own peace. So if you're curious to learn more about what codependency might look like in your life and want to start building more balanced relationships, this episode is for you, my codependent friend. And if you're new here, welcome. I would love you to be a part of this community, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you catch every episode of what we're doing in this Best of series and beyond. All right, let's jump back in and revisit this powerful topic. Here we go. Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show that I want to start with a question. Do you ever wonder if all of your caring in your life, kids, spouse, partner, friends at work, does your caring ever spill over into codependent relationship? In this episode, we're going to be talking about the difference between, I'm going to tell you the signs and symptoms that would go along with you being codependent as opposed to being legitimately caring. So if you are new to my channel, please make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, because I don't want you to miss anything. I roll out new stuff every Tuesday and every Thursday as well. I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. Also, please introduce yourself in the comments if you're new, because we are a friendly group and I read every single comment. So let's move on to today's content. We'll just start with establishing what is codependency. This is you being overly invested in the decisions, the feelings, the circumstances, the outcomes of the people in your life to the detriment of your internal peace, maybe your physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. And I say that because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around what codependency actually is. And most of us are lovers, right? We love the people that we love in our lives. So of course we're invested. But there's a difference between being invested and being overly invested. Codependency means that you're overly invested. So if your adult child or your best friend has a problem and they come to you with that problem, you immediately feel responsible for fixing their problem. So how you can tell, like on a regular basis, is if someone comes to you or if you see someone struggling, what is the urgency that you feel to fix what is happening in someone else's life? Right? One of the telltale signs of codependency is that we're really unclear about what is our side of the street and what is the other person's side of the street. Meaning, what are we actually responsible for? What is appropriate? What is healthy for us to be responsible for, which is ourself, our decisions, our lives, our circumstances. And you can be supportive of the people that you love without taking it on like it is yours to fix. Because that's not just not good for you, right? Because it really takes so much bandwidth to go through life being codependent with multiple people, but it's not good for your relationships. Because even though you think people should be grateful that you're doing that you're giving them the unsolicited advice that you're endlessly giving, or that you're willing to fix, quote unquote, their problem, it makes people feel like projects, right? We want relationships where we are relating in a heart-centered way to the people in our lives. So think about it, especially in romantic relationships. Do you relate to people as projects? Like, oh, I can really help this person, or, oh, I'm going to help them dress better, or, oh, I'm going to help them. They have so much potential. They should have a different job, or I'm going to help them figure out their crap with their family, or I'm going to make up for their horrendous childhood. These are all things that sort of go through your mind if you are a codependent. And so much of the time, we are unaware that that's what it is. So this isn't about feeling bad about yourself, about what you're doing. It's about getting clear about what is codependency, because that will not build the relationships that you want. What it really builds is resentment for you, and for other people too. Have you ever been on the receiving end of spontaneous advice from someone that you don't want, where someone is always telling you what you should have done, what you should do, what you should do now, reminding you of what you didn't do? That is controlling, but it's also codependency, where it's like, I have this great idea. You should do this in your circumstance. And if the person doesn't do it, you might find yourself kind of angry. Like if they had just taken my advice, then none of this crap would have happened, the stuff they're dealing with now. But here's the thing. It isn't your circumstance to fix. And what I find with most codependents, it really messes people's ability to have healthy relationships. And so much of it is we all want good relationships. We all want to feel seen and heard and known. We want to see, hear, and know the people that we love. But if you are behaving in a codependent way, you're not doing that. Because at its core, codependency is dysfunctional boundaries and an overt or covert bid for control. So think about how you feel when someone in your life is in a tough situation. How I used to feel and how I still feel, but because I'm a recovering codependent, I don't take the action, is that I want to help them. But what I've realized through years of my own therapy and becoming a recovering codependent is that it's way more helpful and respectful to the people in my life to assume that they know what they should do more than I know. And if they don't, that it is their life to figure out. And if someone asks you for your opinion, it doesn't mean you can never give it. But let's make the distinction of what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about never giving someone your opinion if they ask you for it. Or if you have something you want to say, I'm not against saying, hey, I have a thought about what you were talking about. I was in a similar situation. Are you open to me telling you what worked for me? Which again takes it out of the space that's like, I know what's best for you, which is so much of what codependency is about, is this bid for control, because we're so uncomfortable with the chaos of someone else being in pain. We, for some reason, and there's so many reasons. So I'm going to go through some categories of relationships, and I'm going to give you, like, you are codependent in your romantic relationships if, and then I'm going to go through some of those things in the office, at home, with friends, because I want to know if you see yourself in these scenarios. Because I think that codependency is so misunderstood, and so many of you are high-functioning codependents, right? I created that phrase, high-functioning codependency. I wrote about it in Boundary Boss, because when I was a therapist, I was seeing all of this behavior in my clients, and it would be, to me, very obviously codependent behavior. And I would say, oh, hey, I'm noticing this from what you're telling me. And they would be like, what are you, crazy? I'm not codependent. I'm the one doing everything. I'm the one everyone is coming to. I'm the baller. What do you mean? I'm not codependent. And I was like, oh, look, nobody understands what codependency actually is. And what I realized after many years in my therapy practice is that people were really thinking about codependency as like an old school definition of, if you are codependent, it means you must be involved with an addict, which is not true. It means you are enabling someone in their addiction, whether it's debting, whether it's drinking, whether it's drugs, whether it's Netflix, whether it's sex. That is also not true. Because the reason I came up with this new moniker was that I was seeing it was so pervasive. The experience of these high-functioning women in particular in my therapy practice, who they were doing it all, but at the expense of themselves. But because they make it look easy, nobody would peg them as either struggling or codependent. So it's like the more capable you are, the more the codependency doesn't look like codependency. But if you are overly invested in the feeling states, the outcomes, the decisions, the circumstances, the relationships of the people in your life, to the detriment of your internal peace, your financial, spiritual, emotional well-being, that is codependency. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like kind of staying up at night, being worried about someone else's situation. It looks like taking action for others that they did not ask you to take. It looks like automatically giving advice to people, automatically offering to do things, and then being kind of angry if you're doing things that no one is asking you to do and they're not grateful, right? That is also a telltale sign. So let's first hit romantic relationships. And then in the guide, you're going to see, I'll share some of these questions for you to answer. And it'll be the more yeses you have, the more codependent your behavior, basically. So, you're in a codependent romantic relationship if you're unable to find satisfaction in your own life outside of a particular person, right? If you're so deeply entrenched in the life and circumstance of the other person that it's really not about you, that it's almost always about the other person. So you both organize around the other person's life. You recognize deeply unhealthy behaviors within your relationship, but you stay anyway. Because when we are highly codependent, it's really hard to end relationships because we don't have such a good sense of self. So much of our self-identity is gotten from the way we relate to other people. You are giving support to your partner at the expense of your own emotional, financial, mental, or physical well-being. So that can look like, let's say they're an actor. They want you to run lines with them late into the evening on a Tuesday night. And instead of saying, I really can't, you need to ask one of your friends because I have a presentation tomorrow morning. You say yes, you run lines late into the night, and then you stay up all night trying to finish your presentation. And your presentation is worse off for it. So it's like you are prioritizing the audition that your partner has the next day rather than prioritizing your own commitment the next day. So that is what giving support at the expense of yourself looks like. I mean, there's a million other examples, but that is just one concrete one. Another thing with codependency is that you really keep close tabs on like where your person is at and what they're doing. As codependents, we are highly sensitive to the moods of other people. So not only are we keeping tabs on them, like what they're doing and concerned about that perhaps, we're also really dialed in. If they come into the house and you're in a great mood and they're in a terrible mood, your great mood goes out the window, their terrible mood now is the whole thing. And now you start trying to fix what's wrong. Maybe you make their favorite thing to eat. Maybe you're like, should I make you a drink? Do you want to talk about it? And listen, there's nothing wrong with saying, do you want to talk about it? But so much of the time with codependency, we don't say that. We're just doing these things. We're just acting out our discomfort with their negative emotion by taking it on, trying to fix it ourselves, even though it is not our side of the street. You know that you're codependent at work, in the office, if you gossip about other people, right? That's the way that you are, get sucked into drama. Think of triangulating, where you're talking to another person about a third person who isn't there. That triangulation is a very unhealthy communication behavior, but it's very prevalent in codependent relationships. You do more than your share of the work. You do work that is not yours. You do things for people that they don't ask you to do. And maybe you feel resentment or underappreciated because of that. You're codependent with your children. If you do more for your child, then what is age appropriate or healthy? I literally knew someone who had a 12-year-old kid. I was at her house and she was walking around with a tuna fish sandwich. And she was like, "Come on, pal, take one more bite for mommy." He was 12. I was like, wow, that seemed so codependent. Why are you treating your 12-year-old like a baby bird when they're perfectly capable not only of eating the sandwich on their own, they're perfectly capable of making the sandwich on their own. And that whole desire to infantilize, keep them as dependent as possible, that is codependency, but it's so unhealthy for your kid. Because really your job as a parent is to give them the skills that they need to go out into the world, right? Because nobody is hand feeding you out in the real big bad world, are they? They're not. You do things for your child, your adult children, and really at any age that they can and should be doing for themselves, like the example I just gave. Your fear of your child's rejection of you impedes your ability to appropriately discipline them, right? Super not doing anyone any favors here. Because again, when we do this, we are centering that adult-child relationship on ourselves, on our need, on our fear, rather than when you're the adult and you're not codependent, it's your job. Even if you have to say or do unpopular things, that's called being the parent. And it's not easy to do it because we all want to be liked. But really, this is your mandate. It's your job. When you have kids, you agree that you're going to do the very best you can until you ferret them out into the world. And hopefully you've given them the tools to do this for themselves, right? To stand on their own, to interact with the world, not sort of hide behind you because you have overfunctioned for them, in turn, inspiring them to underfunction. All right. You're codependent in your friendships. If you are always the advice giver, right? Or getter, right? Because you could also be codependent in the other way. If you get pissed off when the people that you give advice to don't take your advice, you got to think about the fact that the giver and taker roles are really well defined in a lot of relationships, right? One person is always in crisis and the other is always saving, especially in codependent relationships. In healthy friendships, there's much more mutuality. But if you feel resentment for always doing and always giving more, being the one who's always planning everything, making sure everyone gets together, it makes you really question the other people or the other person's ability to actually care about you because you're so busy being the one doing. So last thing I want to say is, what does it look like? You know that you're in recovery from codependency if you know where you end and other people begin, right? You're not so merged with the people in your life. You don't feel responsible for the choices, decisions, or feeling states of the people that you love. You realize that the only person besides minor children, right? Kids under 18, we are responsible for. But you realize that the only person besides minors you are responsible for is yourself. You can tolerate the people you care about being in pain or being in a situation without taking it on as your own feelings or being compelled to fix it. Because think about how much more loving it is to ask expansive questions to the people that you love. Okay, so someone comes to you with a problem, you first say, okay, let's start with, what do you think you should do? If they say, I don't know, I want to know what you think, go, no, listen, I'll weigh in the end if you need me to, but this is your situation. And I have no doubt that you're going to figure it out. And I'm happy to brainstorm it with you. But really think about it. What do you think? What does your gut say? Because I trust your instincts about what you should do in your life. Really, you're the only one who knows. But I'm happy for you to bounce it off of me. And this is a way to do it with children too, especially kids who are teenagers. We are trying to give them critical thinking skills. So you have to give up your place being the center, like the all-knowing parent, because you're going to be soon transitioning, if you have teenagers, into a different way of relating to them. If you have a healthy relationship and you're not codependent, you will relate to them more as young adults and not as children. Because if you're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, you're still a young adult. Of course, you still need your parents, but you're not children. And you really, at that point in life, you have to be confident in your own decision-making. And that is your job as a parent, to give your children, when they're minors, that confidence by inspiring them to think instead of being the savior, right? Deductive thinking, critical thinking, that is what children need to solve their own problems, because you're not always going to be here to do it for them. And it's no longer your job when they start aging out 18, 19, 20, right? It's their job. And you can be there to empathize, to sympathize, to be caring. You can still give them your opinion once they present what it is they think they should do, because those are the skills that someone needs. And being codependent means that you are robbing them of those skills, besides robbing the people in your life who you love the most. Because when you're codependent, you are not telling the truth about how you feel. You are so busy managing everything else that you are denying the people who love you the opportunity, the privilege of authentically knowing you. So if you want to check out where you are with a couple of the questions that I asked you in this episode, go to terricole.com/guide. I hope this helped you in some way, added value to your life. And as always, take care of you. Oh, hey, are you still here? If you are, it really does tell me that you are serious about transforming your relationships. And it all starts with boundaries and self-love. So if this episode sparked something in you, I have an incredible offer that brings together two of my most powerful programs to help you build stronger boundaries and deeper self-love. Right now, through my brand new Terri Cole membership, you can get full access to Boundary Bootcamp, which is normally $997, and Real Love Revolution, which is usually $1,297 for just $59 a month. Or you can do $590 for the entire year, which gives you 2 months for free. This membership also includes 4 live calls with me every month. So your Q&A calls, we do workshops, we've got guests, so you can get real-time support and connect with an amazing community of like-minded, like-hearted people all working on growth, healing, and building healthier relationships. So if you're ready to invest in yourself, set clear boundaries, and create the self-love that you deserve, head over to terricole.com/TCM to learn more. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, take care of you.